Some books get banned, some books get burned, and then every so often, a book comes along that unsettles power itself. That's exactly what happened to José Saramago's The Gospel According to Jesus Christ, a novel so controversial it was pulled from a major European literary prize by the Portuguese government, a decision that pushed Saramago into a self-imposed exile that lasted the rest of his life. Before you've read a single page, that alone should tell you something. This isn't a comfortable retelling of a familiar story. It's a book written by someone willing to lose everything to ask the questions most of us are taught never to ask out loud. And that's precisely why it has the power to change how you see faith, guilt, and doubt long after you close it. Saramago doesn't retell the story of Jesus to comfort you. He retells it to unsettle the parts of you that simply accepted the version you were handed as a child. Underneath the theology, underneath the controversy, something far more universal is happening. A meditation on inherited guilt, on the terrifying cost of silence, and on what it actually means to have faith in something you're still allowed to question. Today, we're pulling out 7 of the most piercing lessons hidden inside this extraordinary, dangerous, deeply human novel. 1. Guilt can be inherited before it's ever understood. Saramago's novel opens not with a miracle, but with a failure. Joseph overhears whispers of Herod's coming massacre of infant boys in Bethlehem and saves his own son. He says nothing to the other families. By the time the soldiers arrive, dozens of children are dead, and Joseph carries a guilt he never fully confesses, not to anyone, not even to himself. It's this silence, this unspoken shame that quietly seeps into young Jesus' life like a stain he can sense but cannot name. This is one of the novel's most devastating ideas. Guilt doesn't need to be spoken aloud to be inherited. Children absorb what their parents can't say out loud. Households carry emotional weather systems that shape a person long before they understand why. Jesus spends years sensing that something is wrong in his family, some unexplained darkness hanging over his father, without ever being told the truth. Saramago is asking us to notice the same thing in our own lives. How much of what we carry, our anxieties, our shame, our unexplained heaviness, was never actually ours to begin with? 2. Silence can wound as deeply as any act of violence. Joseph's true failure in Saramago's telling was never really about knowing the danger. It was about choosing silence over warning. He had the chance to save more than his own family and didn't take it. Saramago refuses to let that choice fade quietly into the background of the story. It becomes the moral center of gravity for everything that follows, haunting Joseph and eventually haunting Jesus himself as he comes to understand what his father did and did not do. It's an uncomfortable mirror for the reader because most of us don't think of silence as violence. We think of violence as something loud, something active, a blow, a betrayal, a scream. But Saramago builds an entire novel around the opposite idea, that doing nothing, staying quiet when we could have spoken, staying safe when we could have warned someone, is its own kind of harm. It doesn't announce itself the way a wound does. It just settles quietly into the people around us and into the people who come after. If a story this bold, this unafraid to sit inside discomfort is already pulling something out of you, you don't need a physical copy sitting on your shelf to experience it. You can listen to The Gospel According to Jesus Christ as an audiobook through Amazon Audible, right in your car, at work, or in the moments of your day when picking up a physical book just isn't realistic. Right now, you can try the subscription for practically nothing, and I'll leave the link in the description if you want to give it a try. 3. Doubt is not the enemy of faith, it's the proof that faith is real. Saramago's Jesus is not a serene, untroubled figure gliding calmly towards his destiny. He argues, he resists, he questions the voice that claims to be guiding him, and more than once, he outright refuses the role being handed to him. For many readers, this is the most startling part of the novel, a Jesus who doubts, who is afraid, who wants desperately to understand why suffering has to be the price of meaning at all. And yet that doubt never actually erases his faith. If anything, it deepens it, makes it feel lived in rather than simply inherited like an unquestioned family tradition. Saramago seems to be arguing something quietly radical here, that faith without the freedom to doubt isn't really faith at all, just obedience wearing a more comfortable name. Real conviction, the kind that means something, has to survive being questioned. It has to be chosen again and again, not simply accepted once and left untouched. 4. Power often asks others to bleed for what it will never feel. In one of the novel's most audacious scenes, Saramago imagines God laying out, almost like a business plan, the immense human cost required to spread his name across the earth. Centuries of martyrs, persecutions, wars fought in his honor, all necessary, all justified, all somehow worth it from a vantage point far above the actual suffering. Jesus, hearing this plan stretched out before him, is horrified in a way that feels utterly human. How can something be worth this much blood when the one asking for it will never personally bleed? This is Saramago at his most provocative, using the story of Jesus to interrogate something far larger than religion alone. The pattern, repeated endlessly throughout history, of the powerful asking the powerless to sacrifice everything for a cause the powerful will never personally pay for. Whether it's framed as glory, nationalism, progress, or destiny, the novel dares us to ask the same question Jesus asks: who actually pays the price for the story we're being told is necessary? 5. Love persists even inside a story written for sacrifice. Amid all this theological weight, Saramago gives his Jesus something the traditional Gospels never do: a deeply human, tender relationship with Mary Magdalene, full of intimacy, companionship, and ordinary affection. It's one of the most controversial choices in the entire novel, and also one of its most quietly beautiful. In a story that keeps insisting Jesus' whole life is destined for sacrifice, his love for Mary Magdalene is the one thing that feels like it genuinely belongs to him. There's something deeply moving in that contrast. Even inside a narrative dictated by prophecy, destiny, and suffering, Saramago insists on carving out space for tenderness, as if to say that no life, however weighed down by purpose or duty, should be reduced only to its function. We are, all of us, more than the roles we're asked to play, and love, however brief, however doomed, is proof of that. 6. To question the story you were given is its own kind of courage. Throughout the novel, Jesus repeatedly tries to resist the fate being written for him, pleading, arguing, even attempting to escape the path laid out by God. He isn't a passive vessel quietly fulfilling prophecy. He's someone actively wrestling with whether he's willing to accept a destiny he never chose, built on suffering he never consented to. Saramago lingers on this resistance far longer than comfort would allow because it's the whole point. It takes a particular kind of courage to question the story you were handed at birth, whether that story comes from religion, family, culture, or the simple expectation you'll quietly play the role you're assigned to. Saramago's Jesus reminds us that accepting a destiny without ever wrestling with it isn't devotion, it's surrender. And sometimes, the most faithful thing a person can do is refuse to accept a given story until they've truly understood and chosen what it's asking of them. 7. True compassion means carrying weight that isn't technically yours by simply because someone has to, and because love demands it. This mirrors in the most haunting way possible exactly where the novel began, with Joseph's failure to warn the families of Bethlehem, a guilt he never chose but carried anyway. Jesus' final act closes that circle. Where his father remained silent and let others suffer, Jesus, in the end, chooses to speak, to absorb the guilt of another, to take responsibility even when it isn't his to take. Saramago seems to suggest that this, more than any miracle, is the truest definition of grace. Not perfection, not power, but the willingness to carry what others cannot or will not carry for themselves. Before we close this one, if these 7 lessons struck something in you, remember that you don't need a physical copy to experience the gospel according to Jesus Christ for yourself. The full audiobook is available through Amazon Audible, so you can experience Saramago's haunting, unforgettable retelling during your commute, at work, or in any moment when sitting down with a physical book simply isn't an option. The trial subscription is practically free right now, and you'll find the link waiting for you in the description below. In the end, this isn't really a novel about disproving or defending faith. It's a novel about what faith looks like when it's forced to survive real doubt, real guilt, and real human cost. Saramago doesn't ask us to stop believing. He asks us to believe with our eyes open, to question loudly instead of accepting silently, and to understand that compassion sometimes means carrying a burden nobody asked us to carry. That, perhaps, is the most enduring lesson this dangerous, beautiful book leaves behind. Remember to subscribe, comment, like, and see you next time.